All right, so today we're tackling this idea of building a really standout brand at work, like how to really stand out.
Hmm.
And we're going to be using Lois P. Frankel's book, Stop Sabotaging Your Career. Are you ready to get into it?
I am so ready. Let's go.
So Frankel calls this the value-added brand.
Okay.
It sounds kind of basic, but I think there's some real nuance here. So what does that really mean? What separates someone who, just kind of does the bare minimum versus someone who's really indispensable?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And it's way more nuanced than just like being a yes person.
Yeah,
It's about understanding your company's goals and your specific department's objectives and finding ways to use your unique skills to make a real impact.
I see.
It's about being the person who anticipates needs, proposes solutions, and consistently exceeds expectations.
Okay, so that sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that? Frankel gives us like a roadmap, the wallet framework.
Yeah, it's a step-by-step guide to crafting and cultivating a strong personal brand. It's all about being intentional and strategic.
I love it. Break it down for me.
Okay, so the first step is W. Write down what you want people to say about you.
Okay, I like it.
That's about crafting a concise and impactful personal brand statement.
Uh-huh.
Like imagine someone asks, what is, John known for around here?
Yeah,
And what's the answer that you want them to give?
I see.
That's your statement.
Yeah.
It should capture your strengths and your unique value proposition.
Okay, so it's not just skills, it's the overall impression.
Yeah, the essence of your professional reputation.
I like it.
The next step is A, act on it.
Okay.
And this is where many people, they falter. They have a great vision, but don't translate it into action.
This is something that our listeners have kind of pushed back on a little bit,
Like
saying,
what?
well, isn't this obvious? Like, of course actions speak louder than words.
Hmm.
Why would Frankel even need to spell this out?
It's more common than you might think.
Okay.
We get caught up in the day-to-day, like the urgent tasks, and lose sight of those actions that demonstrate our value.
Right.
This step is a reminder to be intentional, to make sure our actions align with our brand statement.
Yeah.
Think, what would a highlight reel of your work week look like?
That's a good way to put it, the highlight reel. Like, what would make the cut?
Exactly. Are you consistently meeting deadlines, exceeding expectations, offering creative solutions? Are you the person who proactively anticipates needs and takes initiative?
Yeah.
These are the actions that build a strong brand.
Okay, L, look to the edge.
Yes.
So she uses Tiger Woods as an example here. Explain that one to me.
Oh, yeah, this is a fascinating case study. When his career hit a slump, he didn't try harder at his existing game.
Yeah.
He completely reinvented his approach.
Huh.
And that's what looking to the edge means.
Mhm.
Benchmarking yourself against the top performers in your field,
Okay.
like constantly pushing yourself to evolve and improve, just like Tiger.
So it's not just about comparing yourself to colleagues. It's
Right.
about aiming higher.
Exactly.
Looking at what's possible.
Yeah, who are the thought leaders in your industry? What are they doing differently? What skills are they mastering?
I like it.
It's about constantly pushing yourself.
Now, the second L, let others know about it. So this one feels tricky to me.
Yeah.
How do you showcase your value without seeming like you're like bragging or being a show off?
It's a delicate balance, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And she has this cautionary tale about a vice president at Warner Books
Okay.
who had an amazing publicity team and just totally missed the opportunity to highlight their success to the higher-ups.
Right.
It's a reminder that you need to be strategic about letting your accomplishments shine through.
So it's not about being like a loudmouth.
Yeah.
It's about subtle, like strategic self-promotion.
Precisely. Think about how brands subtly weave their messaging into our lives. It's not always in your face.
Right.
It's about creating a consistent positive impression over time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, and then elicit feedback.
Okay.
This seems straightforward.
Right. We all need feedback to grow.
We do, absolutely.
But how do we get it?
So the key here
Mm.
is seeking out 360-degree feedback, not just from your boss,
Okay.
but what do your peers think? Your direct reports. This helps you identify blind spots and get a more well-rounded view of your brand.
So how do we get honest feedback without putting people on the spot?
It's about creating a culture of feedback,
Okay.
framing it as a desire to learn and grow,
Right.
and be specific in your requests.
Okay.
Instead of asking, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Try something like, what's one thing I could do differently to be a more effective team member?
I like that. Very specific questions.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. T, treat others with abundance.
Yes.
So how does generosity tie into building a strong brand?
This is where it all comes together.
Yeah.
Think about those brands you love, the ones that go above and beyond to deliver exceptional service. It's not just about meeting expectations.
Mm.
It's about exceeding them. Generosity is about offering help freely, sharing information without expecting anything in return, and genuinely celebrating the successes of others.
Yeah, it kind of creates that like positive ripple effect
Right.
where people are more likely to trust and respect someone who consistently demonstrates those qualities.
Exactly. And she contrasts this with the unhelpful receptionist example.
Okay.
This person who provides the bare minimum, lacking any warmth or genuine helpfulness.
Right?
And it highlights the difference between simply doing your job
Hmm.
and truly being of service.
I see. And that makes me think of those companies that are known for exceptional service.
Yes.
Like, the Four Seasons or Nordstrom, right? Like they built their entire brand around that concept.
Exactly. And it's not just about grand gestures, it's about the little things.
Yeah.
Remembering a colleague's birthday, offering to help with a project, even if it's not technically your job.
Yeah.
These seemingly small actions can have a huge impact.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've unpacked the wallet framework. We kind of have a clear picture of what it takes to build that value-added brand.
Yes.
But she also talks about this idea of a can-do attitude.
Hmm.
What's that all about?
It's not about being a pushover. It's about approaching your work with a positive, proactive mindset. It's about that willingness to tackle challenges head on.
Okay, so not just blind optimism,
Right, exactly.
but where does this mindset actually show up in the workplace?
Well, think about how you respond to requests or unexpected problems.
Okay.
A can-do person focuses on solutions, not obstacles.
Hmm.
They say, I'll figure it out, or let's brainstorm some options.
I see. That makes me think about her comparison between the U.S. Postal Service
Yeah.
and companies like Walmart and UPS.
It's a stark contrast.
Yeah.
The Postal Service, despite its vast infrastructure, has struggled to adapt
Yeah.
to evolving customer needs
Mhm.
and competition, whereas Walmart and UPS, on the other hand,
Yeah.
they've thrived by being responsive, customer-centric, and always seeking ways to improve.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how those attitudes play out on
Mhm.
such a large scale.
Yeah.
But let's flip the script for a second.
Okay.
What causes that no can do attitude to creep in?
Right.
Because it can't always be a personality trait.
Right?
Right.
Absolutely not. And Frankel dives into some common root causes,
Okay.
and it's rarely about laziness
Mm-hmm.
or incompetence.
Okay.
Poor management is a big one.
Okay.
If you've got a boss who micromanages or constantly criticizes,
Yeah.
it just crushes any can-do spirit.
So it creates that culture of fear
Yes.
where people are afraid to take risks. That-
Show initiative.
It breeds negativity and stagnation.
Okay, so what else? What else kind of contributes to this?
Well, another common cause is feeling stuck in the wrong job.
Okay.
If your work doesn't align with your values or interests.
Yeah, it's like being a square peg trying to fit in a round hole.
Yes, exactly. You're going through the motions, but you're not really engaged.
Exactly. You're not thriving.
Right. Okay.
And we can't discount the impact of upbringing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Frankel talks about how early experiences with power dynamics,
Yeah.
whether overly controlling
Mm.
or overly permissive,
Interesting.
can actually shape our attitudes toward work.
So those patterns from childhood
Yes.
can actually show up in the workplace.
They can, absolutely.
Okay. That's pretty insightful. What
Yeah.
else?
Well, being highly detail-oriented can sometimes backfire.
Okay.
While attention to detail is important,
Mm-hmm.
getting bogged down in minutia
Yeah.
can lead to analysis paralysis.
Right. So it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between precision and being able to see the big picture.
Exactly. And a work environment lacking in competition can also breed complacency.
Okay.
Think about companies or government agencies with monopolies.
Right.
There's less incentive to go above and beyond when there's no pressure to improve.
Yeah, it's like, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
Without that need to evolve
Exactly.
and adapt, it's easy to just become stagnant.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about mental health, burnout and depression.
Of course.
Those can significantly impact our attitude and productivity.
Right.
So it's crucial to address these issues and seek support when needed.
It's a good reminder that taking care of ourselves
Yeah.
is also essential for building a strong brand and career.
Totally.
So we've kind of explored these root causes of negativity,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we actually shift to a more positive, proactive mindset?
Well, Frankel gives us 7 actionable tips, and I think they're worth diving into.
Okay, let's do it. What's the first one?
So it all starts with self-confidence.
Okay.
You need to believe in your ability to figure things out, even when faced with new challenges.
But what if you're lacking in that department?
Hmm.
How do you build self-confidence when you've been feeling doubtful or, unsure of yourself?
Well, one thing is to draw on your past successes.
Okay.
Remember those times when you overcame obstacles and achieved goals?
Mm-hmm.
Those experiences are proof of your capabilities.
I see.
And it's also about reframing your self-talk.
Okay.
Instead of dwelling on what you lack.
Right.
Focus on your strengths and what you bring to the table.
So it's about shifting from like a deficit mindset to a growth mindset.
Exactly.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is to create win-win situations.
Okay.
And this applies to your interactions with colleagues, clients, and even your boss.
So this sounds like a negotiation tactic.
It is, in a way.
Okay.
It's about finding solutions that benefit everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being a pushover.
Right.
It's about being collaborative
Mm-hmm.
and finding those mutually beneficial
Yeah.
outcomes.
I like it. Okay, number 3.
Deliver what you promise and even more.
Okay, that seems straightforward.
It does, right?
But what are some like specific examples of going above and beyond in that way?
Think about how you can exceed expectations.
Okay.
If you're asked to create a presentation,
Mhm.
don't just meet the basic requirements, Add thoughtful visuals. Anticipate potential questions.
Right.
Offer solutions beyond the immediate scope.
So it's about demonstrating that you're thinking ahead,
Yeah,
that you're really invested
exactly.
in the success of whatever it is you're working on.
Yes. And those small gestures can make a big difference.
Right.
If you say you'll have a report done by Friday,
Mm-hmm.
aim to have it done by Thursday,
Uh-huh.
it shows you're reliable and dedicated.
Makes sense. All right, tip number 4.
Anticipate requirements.
Okay, this sounds like it ties into being proactive.
It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
It's about thinking ahead, seeing the bigger picture, and proactively addressing potential needs before they become problems.
So can you give like a concrete example of
Let's
that?
say you're organizing a team meeting.
Okay.
Don't just book the conference room, right?
Right.
Think about catering, audiovisual equipment, printed materials.
Oh, okay.
Those small details
Right.
that can make a big difference in the meeting's flow.
So you're basically relieving your boss or colleagues of those mental burdens,
Exactly.
which makes you super valuable.
Yes.
Okay, I like it. Tip number 5.
Offer help freely.
Okay, this one seems pretty simple,
It does, right?
but are there ways to do this strategically?
It's about being a team player.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizing that everyone's success contributes to the overall success
Right.
of the organization.
Okay.
So offer to help a colleague who's swamped, even if it's not technically your job.
Right.
Share your expertise freely,
Yeah.
mentor junior colleagues, and be that person who's always willing to lend a hand.
So it creates that culture of support and
Abs-
collaboration.
Exactly.
Which ultimately benefits everyone.
And those acts of kindness, those small gestures of support,
Yeah,
can go a long way
absolutely.
in building a positive reputation and strengthening relationships.
Okay, so tip number 6.
Always offer a solution or request assistance in finding one.
Okay, so how does this play out practically speaking?
It's about taking ownership and being proactive,
Yes.
not just complaining about problems.
Okay,
If you notice an issue, don't just point it out.
right.
Offer a potential solution.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're unsure, ask for help in brainstorming ideas.
So it's about demonstrating that you're not just a complainer,
Right.
you're a problem solver.
Exactly. And even if you don't have all the answers,
Mm-hmm.
expressing a willingness to be part of the solution shows initiative and a commitment to improvement.
And that attitude is invaluable in any workplace.
Yes.
Okay, last one, tip number 7.
Do what you love, not just what you're good at.
Okay, this one seems a little idealistic.
It does, right?
But what's the core message here?
It's about finding work that aligns with your passions, your values, your interests.
Mm-hmm.
When you're genuinely engaged in your work,
Yeah.
you naturally bring more energy, enthusiasm, and that can-do spirit.
But what if you're not in your dream job yet?
Mm-hmm.
How do you apply this tip when you're, still working towards those bigger goals?
Well, it's about finding ways to inject your passions into your current role.
Okay.
Volunteer for projects that align with your interests.
Mm-hmm.
Take on leadership roles in areas that excite you.
Right.
Or simply find ways to bring more creativity and innovation to your everyday tasks.
So it's about finding those sparks of joy and purpose,
Yes.
even within, the constraints of your current job.
Exactly. And remember, it's never too late to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
Frankel shares inspiring stories of people who transitioned into more fulfilling careers later in life.
Right.
It's a reminder that we always have choices,
Yeah.
and we can actively shape our career paths.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
Yeah.
from building that value-added brand to cultivating a can-do attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But now Frankel kind of delves into this, like, sometimes dreaded topic of networking.
Yes.
And I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of, like, networking events.
Yeah.
They can feel so forced and
Mhm.
transactional.
I understand that sentiment.
But Frankel kind of reframes it as building authentic, mutually beneficial relationships.
She does.
So it's not about collecting business cards.
Right.
It's about connecting with people who can support you, challenge you, and, open up new opportunities.
Exactly. It's about quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And she emphasizes that networking is an ongoing process,
Yeah.
not just something you do when you're looking for a job.
So it's about nurturing those relationships over time.
Yes.
Staying in touch, offering support, and being that person who genuinely cares
Yes,
about the people in your network.
precisely. And it's not just about what you can get from others.
Right.
It's about what you can give.
That's a good reminder. It's about that, like, reciprocity,
Yes.
that mutual exchange of support and goodwill.
Mhm.
Now she actually compares a professional network
Yes.
to those old school organizational charts.
She does.
Those, like, hierarchical structures.
Right, with the CEO at the top and
Yeah.
everyone kind of falling in line below.
And she says to forget about those.
Yes.
Instead, visualize yourself at the center of a web
Yes.
with connections radiating out in all directions.
I love that visual.
Yeah, it's much more dynamic and interconnected. So it's not just about, like, your boss and your direct reports.
Right.
It's colleagues, it's mentors, it's people in other departments, it's even contacts outside your company.
Exactly. It's a much more holistic view of your professional network.
Absolutely. So how do we actually become effective networkers? Especially if we're not naturally outgoing or extroverted.
That's a great question, and Frankel provides some fantastic insights.
Okay.
And she even dedicates a whole section to networking for introverts.
Oh, interesting.
So first and foremost, effective networkers have a genuine interest in others.
Okay.
They're curious, they ask questions, they listen attentively, and they remember those personal details that makes someone feel seen and valued.
So it's not about being the life of the party.
No,
It's about being a good listener
exactly.
and genuinely connecting with people on a human level.
They're also great at putting others at ease.
Okay.
They have a warm, approachable demeanor
Mm-hmm.
that makes people feel comfortable opening up and sharing their ideas.
They're the kind of people you naturally gravitate toward at an event,
Yes,
even if you're feeling a bit shy yourself.
absolutely. And effective networkers are also committed to something bigger than themselves.
Okay.
They volunteer their time, they mentor others, or they simply offer support whenever they can.
So it's not just about taking,
Right.
it's about giving back.
It's about being a contributor, not just a consumer.
I like that. What else?
They're not afraid to ask for help when they need it.
Hmm.
They understand that a strong network is built on mutual support.
It's about recognizing that we all need help sometimes,
Yes,
and that asking for support is a sign of strength, not weakness.
exactly. And here's an important point.
Okay.
Effective networkers are great connectors.
Okay.
They introduce people to one another,
Mm-hmm.
creating those win-win situations where everyone benefits.
So they're like the social architects of their network.
Yes.
Constantly building bridges and fostering connections.
They also have a knack for remembering names, faces,
Mhm.
and those little details that make someone feel special.
Right. Like, hey, how was your trip to Italy?
Exactly.
I remember you were training for that marathon. How did it go?
Yes, those small gestures go a long way.
It shows you're paying attention, that you're genuinely invested in building those relationships.
Yes.
Now, what about this, like, dreaded topic of workplace politics?
Right.
How do we navigate those complex power dynamics
Mm-hmm.
without feeling like we're compromising our values?
It's a valid concern, and Frankel argues that politics are simply another form of reciprocal relationships.
Okay.
It's about understanding the unwritten rules of the game,
Mm-hmm.
knowing who to talk to, when to talk to them,
Right. Yeah.
and how to frame your requests in a way that aligns with the organization's goals.
So it's not about being manipulative or backstabbing. Right.
It's about being strategic.
Yes.
and building relationships that can help you advance your goals
Exactly.
and the goals of your company.
And Frankel actually quotes Kathleen Reardon, who's an expert on workplace politics.
Okay.
And she offers some practical tips for building politically savvy relationships.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of her key insights?
Well, one of the most important is to know what others need and want,
Okay.
and let them know when you've provided it.
Okay.
It's not enough to just do good work.
Right.
You need to make sure the right people are aware of your accomplishments.
So it's about subtly showcasing your value
Yes,
without being boastful or arrogant.
precisely.
Okay. What?
She also talks about managing reciprocity,
Okay.
that unspoken quid pro quo
Mm-hmm.
that exists in every relationship.
Right.
So keep track of those favors, those exchanges of support,
Mm-hmm.
to ensure you're contributing as much as you're receiving.
So it's about maintaining that balance,
Yes.
being a good giver and a good receiver. Exactly. And here's a great tip.
Okay.
Surprise people with unexpected favors.
Oh, okay.
A handwritten thank you note, offering to help with a project that's not your responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
or simply remembering a personal detail and asking about it later.
Right.
Those small gestures go a long way.
It's about going above and beyond,
Yes.
showing that you're genuinely invested in building those relationships.
And she also emphasizes giving credit even when it isn't due.
Oh, interesting.
Find those points of agreement, acknowledge the contributions of others,
Right.
and foster a collaborative spirit.
So it's about being a team player,
Exactly.
recognizing that everyone's success contributes to the overall success of the team.
Yes, and don't underestimate the power of making connections,
Okay.
even if they don't immediately turn into full-fledged relationships.
Right.
Get on people's radar, make a positive impression, and plant those seeds that might blossom later.
So it's about expanding your circle of influence, even if it's just one person at a time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for those of us who are, introverted or shy,
Yeah.
how do we approach networking without feeling overwhelmed or inauthentic?
Well, Frankel offers some excellent advice from Michelle Tillis, who's an expert on networking for introverts.
Oh, cool.
And she says, start by setting small, achievable goals.
Okay.
Instead of trying to be the most extroverted person in the room,
Right.
focus on connecting with one or two people at an event.
So it's about taking baby steps.
Yes.
Building those networking muscles gradually.
Exactly. And don't assume you're being a pest when you reach out to people.
Okay.
Most people are happy to connect, especially if you're genuine and respectful of their time.
So it's about overcoming that fear of rejection
Yes.
and recognizing that most people are open to expanding their network.
And don't be afraid to rely on your supporters.
Okay.
Talk to your friends, your family, your mentors,
Mm-hmm.
those people who believe in you
Right.
and can offer encouragement when you're feeling hesitant.
So it's about building that support system
Yes.
that can cheer you on and provide that extra boost of confidence.
And Tillis also suggests tapping into your competitive spirit.
Oh, interesting.
Remind yourself that sometimes less qualified people get ahead
Mm-hmm.
simply because they're better at networking.
Oh, that's a good point.
So use that as motivation to step outside your comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
and build those connections that can help you advance your career.
So it's about leveling the playing field, right?
Yes,
Recognizing that networking is a valuable skill
it is.
that can open doors and create opportunities.
And don't forget to celebrate your successes, big and small.
Okay.
Each time you make a new connection,
Mm-hmm.
attend an industry event, or simply strike up a conversation with someone new.
Right.
Acknowledge that effort and give yourself credit.
So it's about building positive momentum,
Yes,
recognizing that every step forward is a victory.
exactly.
Now, for those of us who are introverted,
Mm-hmm.
she offers some really specific tips for creating networking opportunities.
She does.
What are some of those?
Well, joining and actively participating in professional associations is a great way to connect with people in your field.
Mm-hmm.
Stay up to date on industry trends
Right.
and learn from experts.
So it's about being part of that professional community,
Yes,
immersing yourself in those conversations and connections.
that drive your industry forward.
Okay, what else?
Volunteering for a nonprofit board or committee
Mm-hmm.
is another fantastic option.
Okay.
Not only will you be giving back to your community,
Right.
but you'll also be meeting influential people,
Mm-hmm.
developing new skills,
Right.
and expanding your network in a meaningful way.
So it's about finding that intersection
Yes.
between your passions and your professional goals,
Exactly.
making a difference while building those valuable connections.
And don't underestimate the power of special interest clubs.
Oh,
Whether you're into hiking, photography, or collecting stamps.
Hmm.
There's a club out there for you.
So it's about networking with a purpose.
Yes.
Connecting with people who share your interests and passions.
And if you're feeling bold, start a discussion group.
Okay.
It could be a book club, a movie club, or a group that meets to discuss current events.
Okay.
It's a great way to meet new people, share ideas, and position yourself as a thought leader.
So it's about taking initiative
Mm-hmm.
and creating your own networking opportunities,
Yes.
bringing people together around a shared interest.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. What else?
And remember those doorway conversations.
Okay.
Pop into a colleague's office for a quick chat,
Mm-hmm.
share an interesting article, ask for advice, or simply catch up on life outside work.
So it's about being approachable
Hmm.
and fostering those connections.
Yes.
Building rapport through those like casual everyday interactions.
Exactly.
Okay. What
If
else?
you're not a joiner, host informal gatherings at your home. A casual potluck dinner or a backyard barbecue
Mm-hmm.
can be a great way to connect on a personal level
Right.
and build bonds that extend beyond the workplace.
So it's about creating that sense of community.
Yes.
Fostering those genuine connections that enrich both your professional and personal life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of like very specific strategies,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately it sounds like what you're saying is that networking is an ongoing process.
It is.
It's about consistently nurturing those relationships,
Yes.
staying in touch,
Mm-hmm.
and finding ways to support one another.
It's about building those bridges that can sustain you throughout your career,
Yeah.
providing a foundation of support, guidance, and inspiration.
Absolutely. So for those who maybe prefer a more like low-key approach,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of her suggestions for those of us who aren't comfortable with like the hard sell approach to networking?
Well, one is to circulate articles or information
Okay.
that might be of interest to your network,
Yeah.
but be selective and personalize your messages.
Okay.
Don't just blast out a generic email.
So it's about being thoughtful,
Yes.
not spammy.
Right.
Demonstrating that you genuinely care
Mhm.
about the people in your network
Yes.
and that you're providing value, not just noise.
Exactly.
Okay. What else?
Mentoring is another great option.
Okay.
Offer to guide a junior colleague, share your expertise, or simply be a listening ear.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rewarding way to give back, build relationships, and expand your network.
So it's about paying it forward,
Yes.
investing in the next generation
Mhm.
of leaders and professionals.
Exactly. And if you're not comfortable speaking in front of large groups,
Yeah.
consider leading a smaller workshop or training session for a nonprofit.
Okay.
It's a great way to share your knowledge, hone your presentation skills,
Mm-hmm.
and connect with people who are passionate about a particular cause.
So it's about finding those opportunities to like showcase your expertise and build your credibility,
Yeah.
even in a more like intimate setting.
Absolutely.
Right.
And don't underestimate the power of the written word.
Okay.
Write articles for industry publications,
Mm-hmm.
contribute to online forums,
Right.
or even start a blog.
So it's about building your online presence,
Yes.
establishing yourself as a thought leader,
Mhm.
and sharing your unique perspective.
With a wider audience.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
And don't forget about online platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter.
Right.
These can be powerful tools for connecting with people,
Mm-hmm.
staying up to date on industry trends,
Right.
and sharing your ideas.
So it's about leveraging technology
Yeah.
to expand your network, build your brand,
Yeah.
and create opportunities for collaboration.
Exactly.
So we've really delved deep into like networking strategies.
We have?
But one thing that really struck me in her book is the emphasis on personal development.
Mm.
Why is that inner work so crucial for building a successful career?
Well, it's about recognizing that career success is not just about external achievements.
Right.
It's also about cultivating inner peace, fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
and a sense of alignment between your values and your actions.
It's like, those high achievers who, seem to burn out or end up feeling
Right.
unfulfilled.
Right.
It's not always about like climbing the ladder.
Right.
It's about building a career that aligns with your deepest values and aspirations.
Exactly. And she dedicates a whole section to personal development planning.
Okay.
And it's packed with valuable insights.
So let's get into some of those. What are some of the key takeaways from that section?
Well, first and foremost, she encourages a thorough self-assessment.
Okay.
So, take some time to reflect on your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, and your goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's about gaining clarity on who you are, what motivates you, and what you truly want to achieve.
So it's like taking an inventory
Yeah,
of your internal resources and like aspirations.
exactly.
Okay, so what happens after that initial self-assessment?
Well, once you have a clearer picture of yourself and your goals, you can create a plan to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be.
Okay.
And this might involve taking courses, attending workshops, seeking out mentors,
Hmm.
or simply setting aside time for self-reflection and journaling.
So this reminds me of something we talked about earlier, like looking to the edge. But in
Yes,
this case, it's about looking to the edge of your own potential,
exactly.
identifying those areas where you want to grow and develop.
I love that connection.
Right.
It's about pushing beyond your comfort zone,
Hmm.
embracing challenges, and continuously striving to become the best version of yourself.
And, she emphasizes that personal development is an ongoing process, right? It's not like a destination.
Absolutely.
Have you found that to be true in your own life?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's about consistently challenging myself, stepping outside my comfort zone, and embracing those opportunities for growth, even when they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey.
That resonates with me too. It's so easy to get complacent
So easy.
and settle into routines.
Yes,
But real growth happens when we push ourselves beyond those like familiar boundaries.
absolutely. And she acknowledges that this can be challenging, right?
Oh.
Personal development.
Yeah.
It requires honesty, self-awareness, and the willingness to confront those areas where we might be holding ourselves back.
Yeah, like facing those limiting beliefs,
Yes,
right? Those negative self-talk patterns
exactly.
that can sabotage our success.
It's about recognizing them
We all have them.
and actively working to overcome them.
And that's where a coach or therapist can be really helpful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Someone to provide that objective perspective, help you identify blind spots, and guide you through those like tough emotional challenges.
They're invaluable.
Totally, yeah.
And she also encourages patience.
Okay.
Personal growth takes time. It's not a quick fix. It's a journey.
Yeah.
So celebrate those small victories, those incremental steps that ultimately lead to lasting change.
Right, recognizing that progress isn't always linear.
It's not.
There'll be setbacks and challenges
That's
and
it
moments
there.
of doubt, but it's about having that resilience
Yes.
to keep moving forward, even when it feels difficult.
And remember, personal development isn't solely about achieving external success.
Right.
It's about cultivating inner peace, fulfillment, and that sense of alignment between your values and your actions.
Living a life that feels authentic and meaningful,
Yes.
both, personally and professionally.
Absolutely.
And she concludes the section with a really powerful reminder.
She does.
You have no control over the past,
Yeah.
but you can take charge of your future.
Such a great quote.
It speaks to the power we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
To shape our own destinies.
Yes.
Regardless of past experiences, it's about taking ownership of our choices, our actions, and ultimately the direction of our lives.
And it beautifully ties into everything we've discussed today.
Right.
Building a value-added brand, cultivating a can-do attitude, embracing networking, and prioritizing personal development.
It's all connected.
He did.
These are all like proactive steps we can take to build fulfilling and successful careers.
I love it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Stop Sabotaging Your Career,
Yes.
I want to leave our listener with a challenge.
Okay.
What is one small action you can take this week
Mm-hmm.
to invest in your personal development?
It could be setting aside 15 minutes each morning for journaling, identifying a mentor in your field, or even signing up for that online course you've been putting off.
Yeah, I love it. Even small steps taken consistently
Absolutely.
can lead to extraordinary results.
They do.
And never underestimate the power of your own potential.
You're capable of amazing things.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back next week with another insightful exploration to help you thrive in the workplace and beyond.
Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining bright.